welcome back to Slaying the Craft, the show where we go inside the mind of a thriller writer. I am your host, Sabrina Thatcher, an author, book coach, podcaster, and just all-around fan of the genre. And I'm really, really excited to introduce to you today one of my most favorite people, Miss Samantha Skal. Samantha is just an inspiration to me in so many ways. You'll see as we just get into it. A fan of the scary, mysterious, and suspenseful, Samantha Skal is the executive director of ThrillerFest, the co-founder of Shadows and Secrets Writing Retreat, a series of thriller and mystery-focused writing retreats in Salem's, Massachusetts' most haunted hotel, which I can attest to is amazing, and an author accelerator certified book coach who specializes in coaching mystery, thriller, suspense authors from novel planning through the delightful hell that is revision. Her superpower as a coach is brainstorming twists from the ground without ground up rewrites. And she recently released a standalone mini course for blocked thriller writers you can check out on her website called Find Your Final Twist. And that's at samanthaskal.com. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm such a fan of yours too. And this is just, I'm looking forward to this so much.
Yeah, so excited. Okay, well, so let's get started with talking about, because this is so about craft. So one of the things I love doing with you is just getting down and talking about craft. And I have had the pleasure of having you as a book coach. I've gone to the Shadows and Secrets retreat, so I can attest, like, I actually know Samantha knows her shit. So
and I can attest that your brain is something that I admire so deeply.
Oh, thank you.
And your writing ability is just chef's kiss. I cannot wait for your books to be out in the world.
One day, same, one day.
Yes.
So before we get into talking about the craft and everything, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you're in charge of ThrillerFest, which is incredible. It's in a couple of weeks. By the time this comes out, probably we'll have already had the ThrillerFest recap episode.
And we'll be taking naps.
Yeah, Samantha will be taking a lot of naps. So that's amazing. But let's talk about Shadows and Secrets retreat. That is one of my favorite things, and talk a little bit about book coaching and how you got into it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So Shadows and Secrets, I founded with Carrie Savage, who is also a book coach, similar background to me, but she has project management as her superpower, along with other things. So we created the writing retreat, an online membership that we wanted to be a part of. So, I adore twists. I love the mechanics of them. I love getting into novels and unpacking it and figuring out how the author did it. And this genre is just chock full of these wildly talented storytellers. And, that feeling when a twist lands and you're like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. And then you look back and all the clues
oh my God,
there.
It was there the whole time.
Yes.
I just didn't think about it.
This is a joy I seek in my life daily. So I wanted to, and with Carrie, create something that focused on that plot level feedback and figuring out, when we get our hands into somebody's story and help their vision shine, how do we get to that joyful moment of the twist landing? And the answer is knowing what really happened.
Yeah.
Which is the sort of pinnacle, and not pinnacle, but like the goal of all of my coaching is all about the villain and all about figuring out what really happened. Because mystery, thriller, suspense is just the villain's story as experienced by the protagonist, which was a realization I had a couple years ago. And it has just informed everything I do now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know that one of the first time you told me that, I was like, whoa.
Thank you.
Whoa. And it is even if the villain is the protagonist, right? It's still the same thing. Or if the villain is not the protagonist and they're just the villain, we're seeing how the protagonist is interrupting the villain's plans.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I love asking myself, and I love asking my clients the question of what was your villain doing on the day their protagonist ruined their life? Right?
Yeah.
Stopped their plans from being able to happen. So, Shadows and Secrets in-person retreats, I adore being with people in real life. I'm, on the extrovert scale, I'm not all the way, but that human energy, and particularly storyteller energy, is just incredible. And so, it's a 5-day retreat. It is in a haunted hotel.
Yes.
Carrie loves
haunted.
being, yes, 100%.
I can attest.
Yes. Carrie loves being haunted. I do not. So I shout at the ghost when I walk into my room that like, not me, please. This is not welcome.
I think what was our first year, we had the little, like, somebody brought crystals. So we
Yes.
had like nice crystal
Yeah.
obsidian, I think it is, or whatever.
Don't know. That's not my,
Whatever.
my knowledge base. Yep.
I just had one in my room.
Me too. Yep. Makes you feel better. Anyway, but if you like being a little spooked, which I do, it's just this most perfect environment for diving into these dark stories. And so that's what we do for 3 full days and then, you know, a half day on the other side. And then we just finished our first virtual retreat, which was a total blast. And same thing. It's just, you know, we're plot over pages. We don't actually look at your pages. We look at just the plot level and we unpack it. And the goal is to get you from, you know, whether you're in revision or a fresh idea all the way through to a roadmap that you can follow. It's more like bumpers on your plan so that the muse can still guide you as you write.
Right.
Yeah. It works. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing because it's not, what I like about it, it's not strict outlining, and everyone has a different style and it works for everybody differently. And the way that the overview and the, like, looking at the plot points is set up is that if you want to turn that into a strict outline, you totally can. And if you want to use that as just guardrails, then at least you have that. And that, I'm more of a plantser. Like, I need to have some point that I'm writing towards. But if I have it all outlined, which I've done before, then I'm like, well, I don't even really need to write the book because I kind of already wrote it.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And everybody's, like you said, everyone's so different. And, you know, as a coach, and I know you know this too, like, you need to meet people where they are. Yep. And, you know, that's another part of the joy is, you know, solving that when you have someone who's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this and it's not working. And, you know, I've had like 25 beta readers and they've all told me separate things. And it's like,
oh yes,
such a brutal place to be. So,
well, and especially if you're on the newer end of writing and you're taking it seriously, you don't know that 25 different pieces of information is way too many. First of all, you should have not given that many people beta readers. But then also, like, you're not supposed to take in every single piece of feedback. You're not. Like, you are supposed to take it and decide, is this something that applies? Do I agree with this? And if not, then let it go. But I think a lot of early writers feel like they have to take all the feedback in and incorporate it all. And then if it's it's conflicting, it's super confusing.
Yes. So. +1 to everything you just said. Yeah. Could not agree more.
Yeah. So it's definitely... it's been really interesting, and as I've learned more about writing and the craft and working with other writers and stuff, it's been a fun process. Okay, so we'll kind of switch gears a little bit because I really want to get into your specialty, which is twists and villains, and that interiority for suspense. So let's talk a little bit about, first let's talk about interiority, and then we'll get into villain. Or you can lead it if you want to go villain first.
No, that sounds great. Way. Yeah. So interiority is my most recent sort of TED Talk soapbox that I've been shouting about, because it is the magic sauce with MTS, with mystery, thriller, suspense, and horror. And the reason for that is because if we don't know what to be scared of, we don't feel the fear as much as we could, right? We may feel the fear, but interiority gets you just that 1 level or 2 levels or 10, depending on how much you have, in terms of letting that reader just soak in and feel all the things that you want them to as the author. And I know, you know this, I know a lot of authors know this, but, you know, it's a good reminder, even for people who have been writing for a while, that you as the author cannot assume that the reader will be approaching something in the exact same way or feeling the same thing. You know, my favorite example is camping. Like, I am an outsidey person, not an outdoorsy person.
I'm not outdoorsy.
Yes.
That's me. Definitely outsidey.
I like comfort. I like walls, you know, but I also love being out in nature. And so I also, you know, am a thriller fan. And so every time I look at dark woods, I'm like, serial killer, right? Like,
there's bodies. Do you know how many bodies are on the sides of the road in Washington? There's like,
yes,
you could go 5 feet and there's a ton of bodies. I just know it because you can never see them.
Yeah, same. Yes, agreed. Right. And so when I look at dark woods, that's my thought, right? Whereas other people in my life are like, oh, how pretty and peaceful. And I'm like, we could not be more different. Right. And the way that you Love you, friends. But like the way that you get that on the page is through inner thought, right? And so when I'm looking at the dark woods, I then have like a paragraph of translation about how terrified I am, and then the reader feels that as well, because your protagonist guides you through the story.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think let's talk about that a little bit, because it can be, interiority is something that is a challenge. We see that a lot. If you listen to like the shit no one tells you about writing
yes.
podcast, it's constantly up interior. There's no
Yes.
interiority.
They're so smart.
Yeah, they are. They're incredibly smart. So, but what exactly is that? That's the connective tissue. But what do we mean by interiority?
Yeah, so I define it as inner thought. It's also, I like to think of it like a translation, right? So everything that, and you know, okay, I'll just give you my favorite exercise, which I've told you and I've told myself, so I know it works. You take a page, dialogue heavy, description, a little bit of description, and for every single thing that your protagonist, your POV character notices, translate it. What do they think is going on with what was just said to them? What do they want from this other person? If it's description, again, you know, it's not just a tree, it's not just a bloody knife. It's, you know, what are they thinking is actually happening? And that translation is also how you lead the reader through the story, which I already said, but it's how you set up your twist. And twists are just assumptions proven incorrect.
Yeah.
Right. And so every time you see a bloody knife, you're going to have feelings about that.
Yeah.
And also ideas about what's really going on. But it may, you know, it's an assumption about what's going on. And until the truth is revealed, what really happened, what that villain's actually doing beneath the surface of the story, we don't know. And so when the truth is revealed, it feels twisty because it's unexpected, but it, you know, the bloody knife may have nothing to do with it. So this is how you create red herrings.
Right. Yeah. So like, let's say, for example, your protagonist is a hunter, right? Hunter going into the woods and finding a knife with blood on it. He or she's going to have a different perspective than me, a thriller writer, going into the wood and seeing a bloody knife. Like, we're going to have two very different thoughts based upon our own lenses of experience, like what we think about. And in order for the reader to connect to the protagonist, it's those things, like, because they may not be a hunter, right? Like they may not, I guess that makes sense. Like if you were into hunting, you might find this thing out here and there's be some blood drops and it wouldn't be scary, right? And then they go in and they see the body and like, oh shit, it's a surprise, because from the protagonist, they never thought it was coming, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah. I mean, logical assumptions are how twists are built. And, you know, again, this is all the villain's journey. So let's say the villain in our little scenario with the blood in the woods and the bloody knife and whatever is there's actually somebody murdering people, but with poison or something, right? Like, or they're taking people out in some other way. And the bloody knife has nothing to do with it. The, you know, vial of poison, which of course is so obvious, right? But like if we're looking at this scene where there's a bloody knife and there's blood and maybe a dead animal or whatever, and then there's this little vial of something, we're going to look at the bloody knife. We're not going to assume that this vial has anything to do with it, but we will clock the vial on screen on the page and then ignore it.
Yes.
And these little clues are how you get that tightly plotted look back, because the reader's going to be like, oh, the vial, we should have paid attention.
Yeah, it was like there the whole time, obviously.
Yes.
But the protagonist, because of interiority, has changed your focus to, okay, I'm thinking about the knife, the blood drops, like what's going on here. Like that's how the misdirection happens.
Absolutely. Your words. Yes.
Yeah. And it has to do with it. I mean, and I think too, the other piece of interiority to consider is not just, it's the thoughts that they're having and what they're seeing, but it is also what they're feeling. So like, you know, we see it, it's very like cliche, but like jaw clenching and fist, like, you know, squeezing or whatever. But those are clues about how the protagonist is feeling without actually saying how they're feeling. Right. I'm scared. Right. Well, if there's like sweat dropping down my back and I like can't catch my breath, that's also shows that's the show I'm scared. Right. But I think there's also a fine balance, right? Because there's the interiority that goes with it in order to be able to create the full experience.
Yeah, yeah, very good point. I mean, translating those body actions, we don't want to translate every single
Not
body
every single
action,
thing. No.
right? It's too much. And so in this exercise that I described where you go through and you translate everything, you're going to turn one page into four. It's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's up to you as the author to figure out your voice and how much interiority works for your story and your vision and, the journey that you want to take the reader on. But yes, body action without translation, like somebody randomly, clenching their jaw without any other context as to why they're clenching their jaw is a little confusing. We're like, okay, well, are you
are you
mad? Stressed? Are you mad? Yeah. Like, what does that mean? And so we don't need to have the words, I am angry, but we do need to understand what is going on and why someone is feeling the way that they're feeling.
Yeah. It's the context. Is interiority just creates context.
Yeah.
Really.
And same thing with action, right? Like if somebody just gets up and runs out the door, we're like, okay, as the reader, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we're in their head and we're thinking like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I have to go. I just got this, I just had this realization and I need to go do this thing. Like I know who the serial killer is or whatever. So much more context, right? And so action without understanding the motivation falls flat.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest notes that we all give as book coaches, right? Because it's in the author's head. It's so clear.
Yeah.
But it's not on the page.
And yeah, like that is and it's the connective tissue. I've heard you say that before. It's the connective tissue of the story. It's what gets you through because we are living through the protagonist. And you don't have to necessarily write first person to be able to pull this off. So I find that when I'll just talk about my own experience. When I write first person, I'm much better at interiority. And when I write third person, it's very hard. I have a whole other, it feels so separated. So when you have that experience or you've heard that from I'm going to get a little coaching real quick. How do you, what's a great way that people can find to be able to still find that interiority if they want their POV to be third person?
Yeah, it is tougher, right? And the way I like to describe POV is picture like an octopus and then picture that octopus on your face. And it's not doing anything dangerous to you, but it's like mind melding with you, right? And so if the octopus is on your face, there is no filter between the reader and what you're thinking, right? And so the octopus is the filter through which we're experiencing the story. That octopus knows everything I'm seeing and thinking, but doesn't know what the back of my head looks like, doesn't think about the fact that my eyebrows are going up and down or whatever it is, because it can only see out. That's first person. Third person is a little bit more of a filter. It's sitting on the top of your head, so it still has its little tendrils inside your brain. This is like an alien octopus. But it also can't turn around and see the back of your head or know that someone's behind you or know what anyone else is thinking without making some assumptions. And so that filter is a bit of a reminder to the reader, which is why third person doesn't feel as connected.
Yeah.
And so make that choice, right? And so if you're trying to figure out how to do interiority using third person, think about the octopus sinking like a little closer into your brain. And, Sally is worried about what the knife means. And she's convinced that it's this thing.
Yeah,
and
she's seen enough horror movies that she knows what's happening. What are we doing? Let's not run upstairs. She knows.
She's going to get out of here.
Yeah.
And then she can't, of course, because
it's
I love the story we're writing. Who is Sally? What does she want?
I don't know. She's in the forest. I can't wait. There's a treehouse involved. I don't know.
She's made some choices. She's regretting them.
There's an octopus on her head in the forest. I don't know what's going on. This is the best story ever.
Yeah. And so, just think about the filter when you're thinking about making the choice for what POV you choose first, third. Omniscient is relatively unpopular in modern MTS because of that filter, right? And it can be used to great effect. I have seen it used incredibly well. The CJ Tudor's The Drift has a absolutely fantastic omniscient beginning. And you get some context, but she's also messing with you, and I won't spoil it.
Yes,
she's messing with you because she's a thriller author.
Yes,
and that's what we do.
And so that is what I find. I mean, I've talked about this with guests before too. But it's a game, and that's the thing is you start to play this game with the reader around. Okay, again, I've got bloody knife, a vial. We're in the woods. My point of view is it's no big deal. This is just normal shit, but.
Right.
that is how you, especially with third person, and since you're not revealing everything, right? In first person, let's say, I've killed someone before, right? Like in my, like I'm gonna be like, well, this is familiar, right? But if I in third person, I don't have to like show the case that, because it can be unreliable narrator or what have you. You can choose, I think, a little bit more about what is shown, and that can also play with the reader a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. I would say the only sort of thing I like to remind myself of, and, when I have these conversations, is there needs to be a really good reason for the reader with something being withheld.
Yes.
Right. And it has to make sense. Right. So like, let's say, you have some traumatic thing that happened in your past. Maybe you did murder someone. Maybe, I don't know. Let's make it not that, because it's so scary. But like, I don't know, whatever. Just call it trauma, capital T trauma, right?
Big T trauma.
Big T trauma. You're not going to sit there when you're getting your coffee and think about your big T trauma constantly, right? You will have pushed it down.
Yeah.
And there might be like the occasional little thing where it's like, I don't think about that because it's uncomfortable. It's a wound, right? I'm not going to poke at it constantly.
Right.
And so that makes sense, right? And if this capital T trauma is the thing that our character, Sally in the woods, has to get over in order to conquer the serial killer, then guess what? You've got a wonderful emotional arc now.
Yes.
Because she's going to have to face her deep wound and realize that, to get through it, she has, to get out, she has to get through, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. She wouldn't be poking at it constantly. Whereas something like, I murdered someone yesterday.
Oh yeah.
You would be thinking about it constantly.
Yeah. You're definitely going to be thinking about it.
Yeah. And so if the reader's like, my dude, like, you didn't tell me that you're the person who murdered this person throughout this whole book, they're not going to love that, because it feels like they have not been let in the way that they thought they were.
Yeah.
So
I think about things like Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney, right? And there's so much that is told, but then there's so much that's not told as well, right? And I think that about that one is like, it's such a great like example of withholding.
Yeah. Well, she's a masterclass in giving just enough information. Like her most recent one, My Husband's Wife.
Yeah.
Twisty as all get out.
Oh my gosh.
Because and I'm not going to spoil anything, but like, we make all these assumptions again, but the things that we are learning from the POVs we're given, those POVs were very intentional, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm randomly going to like have a cop POV, or I'm going to, do this in order to tell the story. Everything has a point, and everything that we learn, they're making assumptions in their own POVs. And leading the reader like all over the place, right? So by the time we get to the end, we're like, the fuck is happening? Yeah. She's
incredible with that.
She's incredible. Alice Feeney, never stop.
Yeah, please don't. Oh my gosh, I'm reading My Husband's Wife for book club this weekend, so I'm excited too.
Just excited to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I'll have to let you know. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more. We talked about interiority. Let's talk about villains. They are the actual hero of the story, whether they're the hero or not, right?
Well, they think they are.
They think they are. It's really their story.
It's their story. And so I like to think of a story as like climbing up a mountain, right? And there's like a cave system underneath the mountain that you have no idea is there. You're the person doggedly hiking up the mountain, right? And you see that there's like a hole every now and again. So you're like, oh, maybe there's something going on beneath it. Like, but I can't see what's happening. I'm just the one experiencing the fact that there's like a bloody knife here and a vial of poison here and a bear and whatever, And so the villain is beneath the surface of the story. The villain is in this cave system, and we don't know what the villain is up to until we reach the summit, the climactic scene, or the other summit that's beyond the climactic scene, which is the final twist. And I like to think of I call it the mastermind villain, because this is the person who is the ultimate antagonist to your protagonist. They have the exact opposite goal. They want to villain, and your protagonist wants to stop them, and whatever that looks like for you. And so we have to know who this person is and why they are making this like totally nuclear choice to keep going in the face of somebody actively trying to stop them, right? What do they want? Why are they doing this horrible thing? And again, we're writing MTS, so it's always going to be life and death stakes.
Yep.
And what's their motivation? And we won't know that until either the climactic or the final twist in that last little chunk of the book. That's classic modern MTS structure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you're working, so one of the things, like, kind of talk me through, if you're writing from the protagonist's point of view, we see the villain like kind of pops up and you ask that question, what was your villain doing when the protagonist ruined their day, right? Ruined their life. So how do you figure that out? Like, logically, am I, as a writer, should I be like, okay, I've got my main timeline, right? Like, this is what's happening that's on the page. And then what am I, like, writing another situation of like what the villain's doing underneath? How do I come up with that? How do I find it?
Yeah. So we all spend so much time on our protagonist's character arc, right? We need to figure out what their deep wound is, and then what that misbelief that stems from that wound is, and how they change over the course of the story. Story is about change. We have to do the same thing for the antagonist. We have to know why this person is doing what they're doing and figure out what they are doing to protect themselves, which is how you get these twists and turns, on the page. Like, maybe they're setting somebody up to take the fall. Maybe they're framing someone. Maybe they're on the page with the protagonist and lying to them the whole time, but they don't have a POV. And so our protagonist assumes that everything is fine.
Right.
But we must know why they're doing what they're doing, which is that same level of exploration that we do with our protagonist, we have to do with this person. And in terms of timelines, it depends, right? Like, let's say that their capital T trauma is the thing informing them and they're on like a revenge path, right?
Yes.
And Sally in the Woods isn't the target, but she's the one who interrupted
the plan,
the revenge path, the plan. And so now Sally has to be eliminated, right? But we're hearing this from Sally's perspective, and she is a intrepid sleuth. She has listened to a lot of true crime podcasts.
Good
and
for
she
her,
just
girl.
will not let it go.
Get it, girl.
Yeah. And so she's now like ruining everything, right?
Yeah.
And then our villain is trying to get away with all of this, and Sally keeps like getting in the way. And so that's the story, right? And so, but we have to know what the villain is doing beneath the surface that's not on the page, so that when we have this climactic confrontation or the final twist confrontation, because in this scenario, let's say that the villain set up somebody, and that's the person that she confronts, and then realizes like, oh my God, that gets worse.
Yeah.
There's somebody else. We have to know why. That's the biggest thing. And so that's a lot of what my coaching focuses on is, even if you've already written a story and you get to that climactic scene and you're like, I don't really know what happens from here. Like, I don't know what was really going on the whole time. When we figure that out, often your villain is already on the page, because we don't want them to be out of nowhere anyway.
Yes.
So they're going to be somebody who's already in your cast list.
Right.
And we're just looking at their motivations, right? Like, what if they were lying the whole time? What if they have a secret vendetta against your main character for reasons, capital R,
for reasons.
Yeah. So it's super fun, but it's also, as authors, when we create something, we have it pretty clear in our heads, and it can be difficult to have somebody come in and poke at that and be like, well, what if this? But that's that ability to be a little flexible is how you get through those blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, they happen, right? Especially if you haven't done some of the work with your antagonist. And I always ask this question because I'm such a tactile person. Like, logistically, when do I do this in the process, right? Am I developing my character first and then I get them on the page? Do I like write and see what happens and then I figure out like, oh, what's the background? Why did they do this? Like, what is it that you have found, or that you kind of direct people to for like figuring out their characters, whether it's protagonist, antagonist, all of it during the process?
Yeah, great question. So I personally like to think of the climactic confrontation first. What does that look like? Who are the people involved? Because that climactic scene answers the question presented in the inciting incident, which is something Carrie came up with, co-founder in Shadows and Secrets.
Carrie's amazing. I've also had her as a book coach. Also fantastic.
Yeah, she's awesome. I'm so lucky to get to work with her. But the inciting incident presents the question and it's answered in the climactic scene, typically, right? This is a decent structure to sort of hang your hat on, and then you can twist it depending on what you want to do with your story. But for that to work, we need to understand what the answer is to the question, and that's the villain, right? That's the villain's truth. That's what's actually going on. And so, if you don't really know what the climactic scene looks like, then look at the inciting incident. Look at why we entered the story on this day. What did your protagonist find to be scared of, right? Because even if it's not a dead body on page 1, we need to know what to be scared of by the end of chapter 1.
Yeah.
Thrillers are the story of how to stop something from happening. Mysteries are solving what already happened. And suspense is like, we're terrified and we don't know why.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a sister to horror, right?
Yeah.
So,
let me give you an analysis that, I love JT Ellison. I'm just such a huge stan.
Yes, JT.
But she
never stops.
Thriller is so suspense is you're inside your house and someone knocks on the door and you haven't opened the door yet. You don't know what's on the other side. Thriller is you've already opened the door and someone's running at you.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I
love that.
Okay, that's a great way to think about it. And then mystery is, we didn't talk about mystery.
Yeah.
But it's already happened. And then you find why was this door open when I got home?
Right. Well, and that's classic mystery, right? But in the modern sense, we often we're solving the mystery of who did this thing, who killed this person, but we're also trying to stop them from doing it again.
Yes.
Right. And of course, if you're the protagonist, you're going to paint a target on your back because this person, it wants to keep villaining and you want to stop them.
So then why are they running through the door at you?
Why are they running through the door?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I like to when I start brainstorming a new story, what often pops into my head is the inciting incident scene. So it's and it always ends up, I don't know, maybe I fancy myself an amateur sleuth. I very much hope to never discover a dead body on a run.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I like exploring that in my head.
Yeah.
And
then let's be honest. So here's the thing. I think that I even said this to you in my first book coaching with you. I was like, why wouldn't they just call the cops?
Right.
Why wouldn't you just be like, hey, I found a dead body. I'm out. That's what the normal person would do. Why would this protagonist be like, oh, I've got to get involved in this?
Right. Great questions to answer
as
the author, right? Because that is the logical thing. And that's, that gets back to interiority. We have to know from the inside this person's head so we understand the decisions that they're making, right?
Yes.
So on this thing, amateur sleuth is on a run, finds a body, and I'm going to, as the author, think about who else is in that scene. Maybe the villain is watching because they wanted the person to find this body. Why?
Yeah.
Right. And start answering those questions. Maybe the crime scene tech who shows up is actually the murderer and is like, ooh, well, I messed up and I left my vial of poison next to the body. So I should probably remove that. Yeah. Think about all these people and what they're doing. And, if your amateur sleuth doesn't want to call the cops, why? Do they know this person? Was this, somebody that they know they're going to be held responsible for because often the killer finds the body, you can play with all kinds of things, but this is how you start figuring out why people are doing what they're doing.
And then tactically, when you're putting that onto the page, we're talking interiority, what they're going through, what they're thinking in that moment. And this is where you have the opportunity to drop exposition, past things. But remember, we're not doing full giant paragraphs of oh, this is so triggering because that one time that I found the body of my mom and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened and oh my God, I can't believe I'm reliving the whole thing right now. No, it's this feels really familiar and I am very anxious about it because, whatever, scary, we're finding a body, but it feels too familiar. Creates an exposition. So that this person's had this experience before, and then also creates the question, that curiosity seed, well, what do you mean you've felt this before? So that is how it's really important when we're thinking about interiority, because that's a spot where we can get too much information, too much info dump. So it's the determining how much do you really want to have in the interiority? What does the reader need to know right now? And what gives them the question to keep turning the page? That's the two things.
Very well said. Agreed.
Thank you. I learned from the best. So, okay, let's go into a little bit of a different direction. You are also a writer.
I am.
And I would like to know, and you, like me, we're both aspiring to be published, both actively working in the community and being a member of the community and good literary citizens while we're working on our own books. So why the dark and twisted? Why are you in this genre? Why are you in the woods
Ooh.
thinking, oh my God, there's dead bodies? Why?
Yeah, great question. And honestly, I like to write about what scares me. I've always been drawn to that. I think I seek to understand if you're getting, armchair psychology about it. But mostly I love the concept of exploring who people are on their very worst day, right? Like when you're faced with something awful, a life and death situation where you have to make, and this is your climactic choice, and of course there's going to be a way out, right? But like when you're facing that villain and you have to choose between like dying yourself or saving 10 children or whatever it is, right? Like that's the trolley problem.
Yes.
Pretty much always in thrillers. It's like two bad choices,
trolley problem,
right? Yeah. I love the psychology of who people are when they're pressed up against the emotional wall like that. Like, who are you? Do you turn evil? Are you like, no, I'm good, just like murdering everybody in here because my survival instinct is so strong? Or do you give up? We don't want that from our protagonist, but like it's going to be something that crosses their mind, right? Yeah. That's the Dark Knight. So that's what I love exploring, and I think there's endless possibility there. And this is why I love thrillers that get into the psychology of that. And I think my favorite type of thriller is the one, and I just started reading Taylor Adams. This is like the cave one.
Oh my God, you haven't finished it yet?
Oh God, no, I'm on like page 10, but okay. I'm already like, oh my God, it's so good.
Oh my gosh.
But this, right? Like it's a classic setup, and I haven't even read the book jacket copy, so I won't spoil anything, but there's a cave.
There's
right?
a cave.
There's a cave. Terrifying.
It is.
And so
he does an amazing job. Like the atmosphere is peak. Like if
Taylor
you're claustrophobic,
Adams, just
one of the best I've ever seen.
Exactly. Right. It's so fun to explore who people are when you start cranking all the other tension, right? So you're skiing and you get lost in the woods. There's a bear after you. There's, you're in a cave and you're stuck. Like, who are you when the worst thing happens?
Yes.
That's what I'm drawn to. And I also just, since like age 6, every time I sit down to write, there's always a body. So I'm like, why would I lean away from what clearly calls to me?
Yeah, I don't know. Exactly. I mean, I think I've sat down and I have multiple times tried to be like, how could I like write maybe a romance, or how could I
me
like
too.
A contemporary? And there's always a body. And I'm like, well,
always
I guess
a body.
I only know murder. Look, that's what my shirt says. If there's no murder, I'm not interested.
I love, yes, that's my vibe as well. Yeah.
Okay, that definitely makes a lot of sense. If you could teach a new writer one thing, what would it be? And can you teach it to me right now? Even though you've taught me so much in this call, in this movie.
Oh, I'm so glad. I love talking about this stuff. One thing, that assumptions are the driving force in MTS. And they must be logical. So, and you do it through interiority, right?
Yep.
But if you don't have logical assumptions for what's going on, you don't have a story.
Yeah.
And
I think that goes
leads into must know the villain,
right? Like it kind of goes to it creates the conflict and the tension, right? Like that is because the protagonist thinks something, it has an assumption about something, and you as a writer have to say, okay, my protagonist would think it's this. It's actually this. Why would they, like, what are the other things that they would assume, it could be?
Yes.
Or what could this clue be that actually is something else? Like it's a lot of brain power, right? We're not just telling a story. We're setting up a mystery. We're setting up it is creating this experience for the reader that's different than a contemporary story where we always have conflict and tension and all of those things, but you have to play this extra game.
You absolutely do. Very, very well observed and said. I completely agree. Like it's such a puzzle. And that's the fun thing about MTS too, is that the readers know that we're messing with them. And so when you try to put a clue on the page and ignore it, they're going to be like, I see you.
Yeah.
I know what you're doing there.
I see that vial of poison. What?
Yeah. Like, duh.
Duh.
Yes, exactly. So then you have to have something else, right? Like maybe the dead animal is actually the
It's
clue. I
actually
don't
the
know.
clue.
Yeah, who knows? But that's really, really fun, right? I love as a reader and I love as an author exploring how can we manipulate the reader to think what we want them to, so that when we deliver the twist, it has maximum impact because they have not even considered that truth.
Yeah.
And it's really
I'm
fun.
curious because I have experienced this. Like once I started really analyzing work and doing my
Yeah.
own and really kind of like figuring out the craft and how all these things happen. How do you still enjoy a mystery and thriller that you are as a reader and you're not like, oh, I see that what's happening, right? Like what we're just pretending that's not there. Great. Okay. Like how do
I know.
you get through that? And the reason I'm asking this is not just for you as a writer and to enjoy the reading process, because that's part of this, is we love to read these books, but that's also what a reader is going to, a voracious reader is going to think.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yes. And how do you keep it fresh, right? As the author, like voracious. My mom is a voracious reader. She reads like, I don't even know, like she's like 4 books a week, 5 books a week. You know, bless her heart. Like keep reading. You know, but how do you entertain someone who has read that much?
Yeah.
Right. And so that challenge is wonderful, and it's difficult. And I strive to, you know, write something that I think that I would want to read, that I think is fun. But how do I not, I mean,
how do you not be spoiled because you know the craft too much?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It is a little different now, a lot different.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't read thrillers or watch them in the same way that I used to. So RIP my innocence on that
I know,
front.
it was kind of fun, right? Like I get that. Here's the reason I asked this is what I found was listening to audiobooks. If I listen to an audiobook and I listen to it fast enough, I still get the story, but I don't have enough time to think, right? Of like,
interesting.
Oh, that's what that thing means, or this is what they're setting up. I still like sometimes do.
Yeah.
Still.
I think I was going to say I enjoy it in a different way now.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just, I enjoy when a manipulation lands, and I know that I'm being manipulated, but I'm like, I'm here for that. That's why I picked up this book. Right.
Yeah.
So it just, when an author guides you through and lands those twists, like, Marissa Kashino's Best Offer Wins was a book like this for me recently. Yeah. Like, you know, you pick it up and the pitch is like, how far would you go for the house of your dreams? Yeah. And as a thriller reader, you're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't wait to see what this is crazy going to be.
She nails it. Like, it was so satisfying. And I think that's the enjoyment I get now, is like, am I satisfied or not with what the author has done to mess with me and what they've put on the page? And do we have enough of an emotional arc where I'm like, I tracked that, and I maybe, you know, in an excellent case that hit at the right time, like realize something about myself, right? Yeah. Like thrillers don't need to be not emotional. In fact, I would argue that they are extremely emotional, because we're dealing with that worst day scenario and, you know, learning who we really are.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. Like it is, because sometimes we ask that question of ourselves, like, oh my God, what would I do in this situation? Yes. Or in the case of being in a cave with a killer, what you kind of like,
no, thank you.
We're like tubes. We're in tubes. Ooh. Yeah, you just wait. You just wait.
I can't wait. I love it. I started reading it last night and I'm like, this is my weekend project. Yeah.
But yeah, I think to me, there's also that, oh God, what was I was just going to say, it's the allowing it's sometimes I have to actively take the time to say, like, I'm not going to try to solve this. I'm going to go on the journey the author wants to take me on.
Yeah.
Like, and it is sometimes now it's more work to do that, because I'm like, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Because I think too, it can also, I always say this, like, I'm a fanatic of the genre. I want to be surprised. I want to go through that. Then afterwards, I want to go back and be like, okay, well, how the hell did they do that? Right. And so the more you get into it, and as a writer, you're going to see those things. Like it just changes the way that you read. And so I think there's some sort of fine balance in there of how you still get to enjoy the story, or maybe just accepting you enjoy it in a different way now.
Yeah. I like the audiobook thing. I read my Kindle dark, like, you know, no backlight when I'm reading for fun, and with a backlight when I'm reading client work. So little brain hacks like that can make a difference. But, Yeah, I too am a fanatic of the genre.
It's
There will
just,
never be enough thrillers.
there will never be enough.
You know,
There's so many, and the thing is nothing that happens in a thriller is worse than what happens in real life. Like that's what's so
super
scary and
dark.
insane. What
Yes,
happens in
it's
real
so
life is
true.
worse than anything you read there. So it's still in this game.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the very last section, I'm as a writer, I always love to ask all of these questions of my guests. So first, what is on your desk?
In terms of my writing?
Yes.
Yes. So I am working on the second book that I have written,
No,
which
no, no,
is
no,
I'm
no.
on.
Sorry.
Oh,
Don't worry.
sorry.
Like I won't make you go down that path.
Okay.
I mean, what is physically on your desk that you like as you are writing? Do you have
Oh, I
flowers? Do
see.
you have little things? Or you have
Yes.
nothing?
Well, as someone who does not consider herself very woo, I have a lot of crystals. Because I like rocks. It started that way. I was like a geology nut when I was a kid, and I just would like I was the kid who would like pick up rocks on a hike and then come home and I'd have like a pile of rocks
Yeah.
that like spoke to me.
Yes.
So there's a number of crystals and rocks on my desk, along with 2 crystal skulls that I purchased in Sedona, Arizona, because again, they called to me.
Yes.
So again, not woo,
Yeah, but it happens. I don't know what to tell you. It's true. Sometimes you're just like, oh, this is it. This is the thing you need.
Yeah. Rocks. I love rocks.
Yeah.
There's usually coffee. I'm one of those people who keeps like a clear blotter and then like 8 million stickers and like, you know, postcards and whatever underneath. And I love looking at those, just thinking like, what if, you know? And then, you know, I look out on some water. So it's nice.
I mean, can't be mad at that at all.
Can't be mad. Yeah. And when I'm in my little office, I look at a blank wall. So
yeah, and that's less exciting.
Yes.
What ritual, if any, do you have before or after you write?
So I don't have a ritual before, and I'm thinking about adding one in because I've been hearing a lot recently. There's been a lot of chatter in my life about how this is so helpful. So I may give that a shot. What I do when I'm leaving the scene or like leaving my writing time is I do that thing where I don't finish the sentence and I write like a paragraph about what's going to happen next. And that has been just absolutely instrumental in getting me to back in easily. Right. Because I'm not a daily writer. I just my ThrillerFest and all my other jobs, you know, like which I love. So I get to it when I can, and that really helps to keep me going.
Yeah. I feel like I learned that was a great tip I learned from a masterclass with Claire McIntosh was the mid-sentence.
Another one. Love her.
I mean, she's incredible. Okay, so if writing multi-POV or multiple timeline, do you write straight through like the reader would read, or do you write each section and interweave them together?
I'm actually playing with that right now in my work in progress. It depends. When I'm kind of fast drafting, I write like I would read it, right? And so I pop in between the POVs and let them tell the story. And, you know, I know what's happening because ideally I have done the work that I coach, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah. It's more of a do what I say, not what I do.
Exactly. I know it works with other people.
And that's the thing. Like, that's even why we have book coaches as coaches. Of course. Because sometimes we need somebody else to be that. Not sometimes, we always need a third person, a different person to look at our work and help through that. Like, even if it's beta readers later or whatever, like you're never going to catch everything.
Yeah. +1. Yeah. And it's such a different skill set and mindset to coach somebody else versus my own writing. As a writer, I am a writer. I am not a super expert. I am still learning, right? But as a coach, because I've looked at hundreds of manuscripts at this point, I am confident in my abilities to help with this twist thing that I have specialized in. So, you know, writing straight through sometimes, and other times I have to ditch an entire POV like most people and go back and start from the beginning. So when I figure that out, I'll let you know.
Okay. So something you have been exposed to so much in your career here. What is the most bullshit piece of advice you have heard?
That you must do anything.
Yes.
You know, like I think that our brains are infinitely varied, and what works for me, and I'm going to caveat this in just a second, so be aware that I am caveating it. What works for me may work for someone else, it may not, right? But craft books, I think you have to seek out what resonates for you at that time and listen to it at that time. And I was just having a conversation yesterday about going to conferences and listening to advice that I've heard, like so many times. And every single time I sit down and I actually listen, I realize something new about my own work as a writer because I'm hearing it at the right time. And so just be open,
Yeah.
But the advice where it's like, this is the only way, like, I think that that's kind of dangerous. I think that that's not a path to creativity and acknowledgement of different brains.
Yes.
However, when I coach and at Shadows, Shadows and Secrets and doing all of that, we do make this, and the way that I coach as well, is we do make this a sort of bucket, like a sandbox that you can play in. So it's bumpers. And we do believe in this process. We have 100% success rate with people walking away with a plan for their book. Whether they stick to it is their...
I was like, well, I have a plan. And then I got it, I was like, this is not really the plan.
That book was amazing. And maybe you'll go back to it someday.
One day I will.
Anyway, I think that, we created our advice understanding that not everyone's brain is the same, right? And that's meeting people where they are and giving them some guidelines.
Yeah.
But anything that says must, I my little throw a red flag up.
Yeah. Because we don't think the same, just like our characters. We have backgrounds, we have lenses we're coming from. So you have to find what works for you. That's why the whole Brandon Sanderson has said this, that the first 3 books you write, like that's the first thing you should do, just finish 3 books. And it's because you're learning your process. Like, because we don't know what that is. Like, you're learning how to write and then you're learning your process, which are 2 close but different things, right? So I find that to be so fascinating as an idea. Okay. How many drafts do you do before you share with anyone?
That has changed over time. So like most beginning writers, when I first started, I was like, I'm going to write a novel. Yeah. I finished it and was like, well, this is the most perfect, beautiful thing that anyone's ever written. And I'm a unicorn. And obviously a Netflix deal is in my near future, right? Like I'm, all these thoughts, it's normal.
Yes.
It's the confidence of beginning writers. And bless that time because it will never be there again.
No.
I was not a unicorn. It needed a lot of work, right?
It's like embarrassing a little bit. I feel like, oh God.
I mean, sure. Yes. But we all go through it. So it's like a shared trauma.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Yeah. So how many drafts? Early on, I shared it much too early. Now I have not shared this current draft with anyone but my agent. Because to your point earlier, to do a little callback, filters and what you let in are so important. And my vision for my story is still, it's not quite locked in. And so I have to be very careful about any new ideas that could potentially derail me away from getting to the core of what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, that completely makes sense because it's so easy to do when your characters start.
It is.
And so you have to discern, are you going to follow your character or are you going to follow this? And is it the right thing? And that's,
So, speaking of processes, like figuring it out, I know now that I need to plants, right? I have to discovery write, I have to plan, I have to put bumpers on it. That I'm happy to have other voices and brainstorming, which is why that's the spot I like to sit in as a coach because that's the most fun.
Yeah.
The drafting I do alone. And then, TBD, how many people are going to see it in the future. But yes, it's a constantly changing thing.
Okay, got one last question for you. What is your old school favorite mystery or thriller?
That's a really good question. I mean, honestly, it's not old school, but Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child's Still Life of Crows is one that I will reread forever.
Okay.
The writing, it just worked for me. I mean, there's a cave.
Sounds
there's,
like perfect for you.
Lots of like murder. There's some creepy cornfields. Like it checks all the boxes, and that's, it was published in the early aughts, I'm guessing. I don't actually know, but it's, it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
So not old school, but like.
That's still old school enough. Early aughts was 20 years ago.
Stop it.
I know 25 years ago kind of depend like yeah.
I don't like it when that truth
I know
is
I don't like
dropped
that
on
truth
me.
either. I was thinking about I saw something that was like, oh, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries last night and it was like produced in 1996 and I was like, oh god, that was 30 years ago. Oh god.
Oh, that was last year.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Samantha. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was a blast. You can find me on samanthaskal.com. And everything is linked from there. But if you're interested about Shadows and Secrets, it's shadowsandsecrets.com.
Yep. And I can't recommend it enough. Shadows and Secrets was such a great experience. So I'm just going to give you a little plug from my personal experience.
We adored having you.
If you are interested in reaching out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Sabrina Thatcher Author. Or if you want more information about my book coaching services, you can visit crimeandquill.com. Until next time, friends, stay sharp and right twisted. Bye.